Welcome back, everyone. It is day 2 of the Earn Skill series. Thank y'all for coming back. If you enjoyed yesterday's conversation, you are really going to enjoy tonight's conversation. If you are new here, I am Coach B, ADHD Money Coach B. Be the budgeting baddie to many of you guys. And I am the founder of Young, Rich, and Rooted. I help women, especially gifted Black women with ADHD, stop stressing about money and learn how to love themselves back to wealth. Inside of my coaching programs, we focus on 4 key skills that help you build wealth faster. It is earn, budget, save, and multiply. This week, we are deep diving into the earn key skill because let's be real. The job market is unstable. Layoffs are climbing. And Black women, while we are the most educated, we are getting impacted the most. We are under attack. Here's the good news. When you know how to position yourself, articulate your value, and show up as the asset you are, in other words, pop your shit, you can attract employers, okay? You can attract employers who are ready to pay you what you are worth, friend, no matter what's happening in the economy. And so that's why I brought my girl Tam back. You guys, give Tam a round of applause. We're going to bring her back on screen real quick. For those of y'all who are in TikTok land, where you really want to be is over here in TikTok land. Wasn't even live. How about that? We're going to add to the stage.
Not you shit talking TikTok land and they're not even there to hear it. They're not present.
And in front of you who know how hard I struggle to learn how to use TikTok.
They were like, we don't even know.
We don't even know what we're missing.
Right.
I am on brand fumbling TikTok. But y'all live now, okay? But where you really want to be is over here in YouTube land where you guys can ask questions. So, yeah, I brought my girl Tamara back tonight. She is here for day 2 of a 4-part series on how to position yourself to earn more in the workplace. Tamara is an HR professional and a career coach who has helped countless professionals navigate interviews, position themselves for higher paying roles, and land offers that align with both their goals and their values. And so for tonight, we're talking about interview skills that get offers. So grab your notebook. Go ahead. You got a couple seconds. Go grab your notebook, grab a pen, jump in this chat, get active in the chat, y'all. Those of y'all who don't ask questions when you have questions, you don't really want to make money. You just want money to magically appear in your bank account, okay? I know that about you, okay? Go get your notebooks, grab your pens, get into this chat, say hello, tell me where y'all from, tell me what city, what state y'all in, and let's get interactive, okay? Because remember, replays are only for those in my group coaching program. So you are welcome to get all this free tea if you hear live. But don't think you're going to leave and come back and it's going to be here. It's not going to be here. So you don't have to stay here 5 o'clock today, tomorrow, and Thursday to get the tea. My Love Yourself Back to Wealth group coaching clients, y'all have replays. So if y'all at work, congratulations. You can watch it later. Okay, we got some hellos in the chat. I see you. Hello. I see some folks who were here yesterday, here again today. Y'all serious about your financial life. I could tell. Tam, can you do us a favor for those who are new here? Can you reintroduce yourself? I know I introduced you, but give your spiel.
Yeah. So this is day 2, and I still don't have that clever of a spiel that you have just yet. But my name is Tam Griffin, pronounce she, her. I am, like B said, a HR professional. I've been in the recruiting side. I always like to say I work in human resources, but I love the human side of human resources. I don't like the paperwork pusher side. I really have a passion for professional development and career advancement. That was my specialty when it came to my actual career focus and work that I worked in for HR. For those that are curious where I sit in HR, it would be like talent development, talent management would be that side. So those people that help you with compliance, that build out all your e-learnings, the fresh faces you see on day 1 for onboarding, those type of folks. So that's me.
Love it. I like that you actually started off with that because my first question for you today was, can you explain the difference between a recruiter, a hiring manager, and panel interviewers? Because I went into an interview, for those of you guys who don't know the backstory, this is where I really like got to see her in her element, like where she knows her shit. Okay. And so I was getting ready to go into an interview. I had nailed that very first interview. However, I was like, nailed the interview. And she was like, did you ask this? And I was like, no. And she was like, dang, well, it's okay. It's just that if you ask this question, then you'd have, what leverage you have. And It was the first time it occurred to me that the different stages of the interview processes have completely different purposes. And I needed to understand, not just to have a conversation with somebody, but what specific conversation I should be having with which specific person. And so please tell us, what is the difference between the recruiter, the hiring manager, the panel interviews? And then we can talk a little bit more about what we should be doing in them.
Yes. So the recruiter's job is to essentially seek the screenings process. They're verifying your skills. They're verifying that you are essentially the individual who also submitted the application in the best way that they possibly can. It's typically done via phone. It's probably like 15 minutes. It's not long. I think a lot of people get kind of fearful when they hear that it's so short and they're like, oh, did I do something wrong? No. That interview is for you, the recruiter, to ensure that you're the person that they're supposed to be interviewing based off of who applied, that you didn't lie on your resume. So they're going to ask you, like, tell me about that, job that you had when you were back at XYZ company, just to make sure you didn't just copy and paste something there. But then this is also the time where you are supposed to be verifying what they have on that job description is accurate, verifying the salary, the hours. Is it hybrid? Is it remote? Are you going in office? Those are the questions that you need to be asking that recruiter. The recruiter asks those type of questions. The second round interview, because most interviews are 3 rounds for the most part. The second round interview is typically with the hiring manager themselves, and that's looking for the fit for the role. They really want to make sure that they get into every single job duty, every single qualification, and make sure you actively know what you're doing. In that same time, they may ask you for the third round, if you were prep you for, hey, we're going to ask you to give a presentation, or can you send your portfolio, or whatever have you. They're really trying to make sure you understand what you're talking about. They're expecting you to use jargon that is geared towards that role in that interview. And for you, you want to make sure that that person as a leader is well equipped. Too many times we sit in roles where our leader has no idea what we do, but they're just the leader.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You want to make sure that they are there to help you grow, help you advance, help you understand. You want to get an idea of what the team dynamic is like. So there's a couple questions that you can ask them. The third one,
Go ahead. Thank you.
I was saying the third one is typically the panel interview. So that's where the hiring manager asks you to come back. It's probably them and maybe 2 other managers that sit in that group, maybe the director, maybe the VP. Probably just 2 people, maybe 3 people. Sometimes I've seen even up to 5, which is excessive. That group is trying to see if they're trying to assess your collaboration and your culture. How are you going to gel well with this team? Culture add, right? One is probably looking at your body language. They're asking you some of the same repetitive questions that were asked during interview 1 and 2, just to make sure you're not lying. And then they're also asking you about your communication style, different things like that. And that is where you really get to drive in on how long you all have been with this organization. Why are you still with this organization? What made you choose this organization? Where is this organization going? What does the team look like? That's where you get to ask those culture-based questions. So yeah, each interview is meant to be different.
I love that. And I was going to ask you which what each person is specifically looking for, but you already answered that question. So I really want to go back to a gem that you gave me when I was going through the interview process with the recruiter interview in particular. And you told me it's my opportunity to gather intel that I can use to negotiate later. Yeah. And one of the questions you had told me to ask was how soon they were looking to fill this role. Now, when I hear that question, naturally, my brain is just thinking like, how quickly do they want me to start? But I didn't realize that that question holds more power than just a start date. Can you break that down for everybody?
Yes. That's a question that you can ask across all three interviews. And you want to ask across all three interviews because the recruiter is going to know realistically. Sometimes the hiring manager could be in fantasy land, but the recruiter will know realistically when is the start. And they'll probably say the anticipated start date for this role is September 2nd. But, we have a couple interviews. And the recruiter is going to tell you, we got a couple interviews lined up because they're thinking realistically, in order for me to get through all this, September 2nd doesn't look right if we're starting this week, right? It's not realistic. I got to take you through background. So you'll get a little more from the recruiter. Then you'll ask that question from the hiring manager, and the hiring manager will probably give you a little bit more insight on when they're seeking to start. And they'll probably for sure tell you, we're looking for other interviews. This is leverage for you because if you applied, and I'm going to use dates, if I can find my calendar. Hold on. Because I like to break it down. So if you apply for the role on August 11th, you got the alert for your phone screen from the recruiter on the 13th. They set you up on the 15th for that screen. And he tells you September 2nd is when we're interested in starting. That's a short turnaround, folks. That's a 2-week turnaround from you then doing the second round interview the week of August 18th. And then the third potential interview during the week of the 25th, just for you to start. That means they have to interview you 2 more times, more likely. Think about it. Put you through background, hope that you accept the offer, and then get you to start. So what that actually is telling you is that they have a tight turnaround and there's a need there. They need this role to start.
Okay. So what do we do when we know that there's a need? There's a need. What can I do with that information?
Well, as you're going through the interview process, it's your opportunity to kind of hold it. This is where you want to gather and maybe really sell yourself and really talk about how you're able to hit the ground running once you get in. You're a quick learner, you're fast, you're receptive, you're coachable. Although that's what you want to sell yourself on because that's essentially the timeline they're giving you is that's what they need. They don't need anyone that's going to be a slow progression. They need someone that's like, hey, what do you need me to do? You can even kind of showcase some of that in that second round panel interview and say, what are the objectives you need for this role that if you're planning on having them start on the 2nd, what are the first 3 things that you want them to do? Quickly, tell me, right? That's how you can sell yourself because that later helps you in negotiation.
I love that because if they're looking for somebody who's going to start quickly, it makes sense that they're also looking for somebody who doesn't need a lot of runway to be able to do their job. So if you could position yourself as, listen, I'm turnkey. Like you could put me in a role and I can go. You're more likely to land that role over somebody else because they're so desperate to fill that role quickly. And my assumption from this is that you have more salary negotiation power because they're so desperate for the role, right? Yep.
And as you sell yourself in the second round interview and speak yourself up to the manager, go into the third round and put your emphasis on culture and collaboration. Great. But then also say, hey, you throw me the ball, watch what I do with it. You're going to give it to me and I'm going to know how to go. As long as you tell me, Tamara, I need XYZ, 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 then I'm going to deliver. What are the milestones? I'm going to hit every single one. That's what they want to hear. So when you get into that negotiation, I don't know, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but when you get in there, you're able to say, next to my skill sets, and I see that you are really looking for someone that's turnkey, ready to get in there, and I know that's me. If they offered you $95K, you're saying, I'm wondering if there's a little bit more wiggle room for $100K, because with me, you're getting the full package.
Come on. I mean, with somebody else, that could work, but with me, I'm giving you at least $20,000 more value, and so I think we could, y'all come back later in the week because we are going to have an entire segment on negotiating your pay and what you could do and what you should be doing and what they're expecting of you. So lock on your calendar right now, 5:00 tomorrow and Thursday, because we're going to be talking about things that you need to know as far as your career all week long. Well, not Friday, but you got me. So what are some of the best questions that candidates can ask during an interview to flip the script and vet the company?
One of the best questions is, one, it shows that you've done your research on the company and you two are interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. Remember that, right? This is a two-way interview, but it's also helping you align or find out if there is alignment, if people actually know the mission, vision, and values. Because there are people that work at companies and have no idea what the company's mission, vision, and values are, which is sometimes a red flag. So asking them a question of, how does this role contribute to the company's overall mission and vision? How am I impacting the business here? How do you personally align with the company's mission and vision? How does the team impact the company's mission and vision, right? I know my role is an aspect, but how does the team overall? What does growth and development look like here? That's a big one. I didn't collect all these skill sets and upskills like Thanos rings for nothing. I'm a lifelong learner, right? I love to learn. Part of the reason why I applied to this organization is because you too seem to be, big on growth and development. How do you all pour into your employees? You see how I talk them up, ask that question? It's all about how you deliver it. And then also, I'm big on work-life balance. I know some people like to run themselves into the ground. That's not me. But asking the question of, what does work-life balance look like? How do you all value that recharging time that your employees need? It's not necessarily asking them what the PTO, what the plan is as far as time off. It's, as a leader, how do you pour into your team as far as ensuring that they have time to recharge? And then this is a good question for panel 3. That's a good temperature check. We talked about it yesterday when we talked about internal signs of if this company is struggling, if this team is struggling, what's really happening. Let me assess the situation. What are the biggest challenges facing the team right now?
Cool.
What are the biggest challenges facing you as a leader right now? That's what you want to ask.
I love those questions because, first of all, the question about like what's the biggest challenge facing you as a leader, to give the leader the optic that you are concerned about solving their problem personally. And there is a connection there that I'm not just trying to acquire a job. I'm trying to solve a problem here. I want to understand the problem thoroughly, and I want to help you understand why I can help fix that problem, this immediate pain point. And when you think of like sales of anything, whether we're talking about products or services or yourself, in this case, you're the product, you need to understand the audience's pain point in order to understand what's going to make them purchase. What's going to make them, because you're a commodity. They're going to purchase you, so to speak, when they decide they're going to hire you and pay you X amount of dollars. They're paying for your services. And so it's important for you when you're in the business of looking for your careers to understand what's causing them the most pain right now.
Yep. It's leaning into some of those soft skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, all of those things that companies need and want. So
like that. And I think I like that question even early on, because I'm thinking about like the recruiter question is like that the hiring manager, that's the person who's really trying to see, can you really do this job? But the recruiter has some intel. And so asking them and giving a clue of like what they think that pain point is, you might be able to prepare your interview a little bit, your second interview a little bit better, your follow-up questions a little bit better, because you've gotten a little bit of tea about what that department is struggling with from that first person.
It's funny you say that, because one thing I like to coach my clients with is reading the recruiter. Recruiters have personalities, and a lot of them are willing to give you the cheese may. They're willing to give you the little bit of gossip and tea that you're looking for, and you can almost tell the pain points they are having, fulfilling the requisitions is what we call them, so recs, of the roles. And they'll show you how inundated you are, pick up on patterns, like, are they only replying to me via email on Wednesday? Probably when they're only dealing with this rec and this leader, so they're not really bought into this department. There's other things that they're doing too. Asking them questions like, how long have you been there? How long have you been a recruiter? Doing your research and looking them in on LinkedIn and touching base with them on kind of shared commonalities and things like that. You can get a lot of information from your recruiter because a lot of them are itching to tell you.
It's tea time, y'all.
Tea time. They at this point they're like, you'll hear it in their sound and their mannerisms. It's you can really pick up a lot from the recruiter.
So speaking of questions to ask, what would you say are like the must ask questions to discover your negotiating power later?
Hmm. Asking the recruiter, because they're going to ask you, what is your range? What is your
Mm-hmm.
desired salary?
Mm-hmm.
And you always want to answer that question back with a range, right? Say, I would love to start at XYZ, but I'm open to negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
So asking them the question like, how much of the budget is allocated to this role? Um, Asking the question, I'm trying to think, when it comes to like negotiation power, how is performance measured? What do the annual performance review process look like?
Mm-hmm.
Are my promotions tied to that? Because some companies don't tie your promotions to your annual review.
Mm.
That too. Um, You can ask about the compensation package. Some companies have it where it's a little a la carte, but most of the time they're combined. So it depends on the research, and that's a question as well. And then a good question you want to ask: is this a new role for this department, or was this role previously held by someone else?
Mm. What's the that question implying?
That question you're trying to find out, was that person promoted? Did they leave? It's a culture check type of question, but then it's also to find out if they're expanding the team, if you're one of one, if you're going to come in and be one of two people, so then they're splitting budget, right? But if you're coming in and you're one on one, it's going to just be you in that role, then you have way more negotiation power at that
Mm.
point. So
Okay. That's good. If this is helping all of y'all, please tell me in the comments, all right? Because this is tea, okay? We got a question. I'm a sidebar from my questions to ask the audience question real quick. Alicia asks, many companies have roles and they prioritize internally. How can we handle that type of question? I watched something on a PMP course in the ethics of how that is unfair disadvantage. How can we, I think there's a follow-up to that, to prevent waste of time, how can we ask about this casually?
So you have to always assume that, and this is just a rule of thumb, every role that is posted on Indeed, LinkedIn, or anything for a company, you bet your bottom dollar has been offered internally. And you have to think of it from the employee standpoint of employees that are already there. How dare they offer a role externally that you may have an internal employee that could do it too?
Mm-hmm.
That's been sitting there in the same role for 5 to 10 years waiting for their opportunity. That would be a slap in the face and a decrease in morale. They can't risk that.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely assume that every role that is posted was offered internally as well.
Mm.
That's just the best way that you could look at it.
Do you find that they're required to prioritize the hiring of an internal candidate at times?
So again, this could depend on the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So industries that are retail, where they have very high turnover, a lot of companies or a lot of employees don't stay there long, like associates don't stay there long. They probably have absolutely no rules that say you have to, interview an internal. But when I think of companies that have a lot of internal movement and progression, right? When we've done our research and Glassdoor and stuff like that, then more than likely they do have if this person meets the bare minimum
Uh-oh.
requirement. Oh, did I freeze? Oh, but if
You're back.
okay, but if the company meets the bare minimum requirement, then yes, we're going to interview them. But also keep in mind, when it comes to the advantage that an external candidate has is reputation. Internal candidates have a reputation already in their company. If they're one of those people that have exhausted applying for different roles, the recruiter can see how many times they've applied. They can also see how many times you've applied. So just know that there are some pros and cons to both, but it's not necessarily a negative thing that internals are able to apply. Sometimes the companies know we have no one that's going to meet these requirements.
And honestly, I would think it would be a red flag if you had a company who didn't consider internal candidates anyway, because when you get the job and you want to move up and they're looking at external candidates and disregarding you're going to feel some kind of way. So I think I would feel more comforted by the fact that they consider their internal candidates first, because that would make me feel more confident in the trajectory of my career coming into them.
Exactly. Yeah. You always assume that they're opening up to internals because, yeah, I would feel kind of slighted as an employee that's been working there.
Now, yesterday you talked about how there have been people who have talked themselves out of more interviews. Like they were the ones that they
On
wanted, and they
paper.
talked
Right.
themselves out of the job interview. So can you talk about the biggest mistakes people make in interviews that cost them the offer?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is one of my biggest pet peeves. There are times where I have pulled applications and on paper this person is perfect. I literally sometimes as a recruiter rank, like as I reach out, like on Mondays I get the good ones, okay, like my red, yellow, green, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my greens got disappointed me. They'll get in the interview and what we find a lot of times is they ramble. I think some people try to fill dead air and feel like the more they say, the more profound, the more educated they come across, the more intellectual they are. But sometimes less is more, especially during the phone screen with the recruiter. The recruiter is not when you want to divulge too much. The recruiter is literally there just making sure you're the person that's on this application. That's it.
They checking boxes. Check.
And the last thing you want to do is essentially piss off the recruiter, because if you piss off the recruiter is not going to move you forward. If you waste the recruiter's time, they're not going to move you forward. If you bore the recruiter, they're not going to move you forward. So you want to do just enough, give them just enough, and move forward. Don't ramble if they ask you a question. Don't talk. If I ask you the question, tell me about yourself. I don't want to hear about your kids. I don't want to hear about your dog. I don't want to hear about that one time you went to Vegas. And as a woman or anyone, you should definitely not be talking about your kids.
Got you. So, do you find that interviewers will bait you into those type of questions? Like, obviously not ethically, but
yes.
How do you handle it?
Yep. Don't get onto the phone and instantly apologize of, oh, if you hear my son in the background. As far as they know, that's a cat. As far as you know, you're standing outside and that's the neighbor's child. You don't know what's going on, right? Like, you don't know what's happening. You got some relatives in the house right now. Like you try your best to schedule around this. You do not want to fall into answering some of those questions because you do have some leaders, especially if you're going into a one-on-one role, like we talked about, right? Where they are relying on you to do this role and the support for the team. And if you tell them, yeah, I have 4 kids, and they're thinking, are they gonna have time? Are they they're gonna have enough rest? Are they gonna be bought in enough? Like am I gonna get a whole bunch of, hey, so and so, I'm sick today? Like, am I gonna hear that a lot? And some of them will bait you into that. Some of them will have pictures of their kids in the background, so they're hoping that you get that warm and fuzzy, be like, is that your son? You don't see it. You don't care. Like, you don't care that they have a child. You don't care. Do not fall for it, because yes, some recruiters, some hiring managers will bait you into talking about it to find out if you really have the capacity.
Oh, okay. Are we gonna talk about like bait and how people, how they because there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down on how they find out more about you outside of that interview. But what I really want to ask you is if we can start talking about like the actual interview process, the storytelling that occurs in the interview. Can you break down the STAR method? It's one of the most common methods that I see ask questions, and I saw that be asked to me in real time. So I know it's definitely a method that employers use. Can you break down the STAR method and how to use it to make an impact in the and make your stories land?
Yeah. So the STAR method, for those who don't know, is essentially the acronym that stands for situation, task, action, and I think it's result, right? So whenever a recruiter or a hiring manager or the panel asks you a question, and it's typically around those questions of, tell me about a time when, right? When you had to overcome an obstacle, right? From that moment, from the time that they stop to the time that they start talking, I coach my clients to say, keep that in less than a minute and a half, your answer. Leave the ums, the the well, the that's a good question. They know it's a good question. You don't need to validate them. Don't waste your time. They know it's a good question. That's why they ask. You go straight into it. Love this. Let me tell you about the time where I was in my role. If you look at my resume, I held a role in position of XYZ, right? You tell them the situation. Boom, we were given a project. I had to create this onboarding program from scratch. They gave me 2 popsicle sticks and Elmer's glue. You can add a little, some sort of attention grabber, some sort of laughter to get them engaged, but you move on with that story. Don't get into the girl, let me tell you about that. No, we're moving forward. You gave them the situation. Now you're going to go into the task, right? I had to develop this onboarding program by 2 months. They gave me 2-month turnaround, by myself, no team. Mm-hmm. And they told me there was no budget. How I'm doing this, you ask? Now you're getting into the action and you're about to break it down. If this is an HR like project manager role, you're walking them through the project management steps, right? Mm-hmm. Keeping it brief and concise, but you're showing them that you know what those steps are. And then the result you say, and then, I had it done in less than I had a week to spare. I tested it twice. We were able to run through that. We got the results that we wanted and actually helped turn around our turnover within the company with a margin of 6%. You broke it down. If you go too long and you spiral into, and then, it was a lot and so-and-so got fired, girl, and I was all by myself on the team. It was me and the island. You spend too much time doing that. So the STAR method keeps the attention. The recruiter has their rubric, which probably follows the STAR method. They want to find out what the situation is, what the task is, what the action is, what's the result, and then they can move forward.
I love this method. I first discovered it right before I got hired at the job where you and I met. And what I found helpful with me was that, first of all, it gave me structure because conciseness is not my superpower. But it also gave me an opportunity to look for specific areas I made impact in those jobs and practice my story around it. So I already knew, I had a list of potential stories. So depending on what question they asked me, when's the time you were given a deadline and you didn't meet it? And I'm like, okay, I got a story of failure. I got a story of success. I got a story of XYZ. And I found being able to have those made me feel so much more confident in that conversation to be able to wrap it into a nice little button. What are some common questions that recruiters ask, or not recruiters, I should say, probably more hiring managers ask, that you probably should have some stories prepared around the STAR method?
So my favorite is the tell me about you. That is the first question. Next to maybe the second, and after that is tell me how you align with this role. What has your interest in this role? That's a make or break. There are some times where after that, a recruiter or hiring manager, they don't want to hear nothing else from you. They're going to ask you 2 questions just to make it seem like they care, and then they're hanging up. Mm-hmm. So that question is really big. And some people used to call it back in the day the elevator pitch. You want to make sure that you answer that very clearly and concisely. You do not, again, want to talk about your kids, how you were just recently engaged. Say that for day 1 onboarding. Mm-hmm. Hear that story later, but not right now in the interview. Another question that is important is tell me about a time that you overcame an obstacle. That directly walks you through the STAR method. Mm-hmm. Example I just gave. They want to know, how did you overcome this? And they're assuming you overcame it by asking the question. You've already won. You just got to walk them through it.
Right.
The other one is tell me about a time you had to handle conflict within your org or within your team. They're trying to find out if you're the type of person that's I'm non-confrontational. I walk away. Sometimes people think that that's the best answer, but they're also wanting to hear someone say, but team is something that I value, and I really want to make sure that we're all on the same page since we're all here to deliver, right? So you want to make sure you have those answers appropriate. Another important question. Sometimes you'll get hiring managers that want you to answer what exactly you did in that role. Because remember, each company can call a role whatever they want. And you can write whatever you want down as the qualifications. They wouldn't know. So sometimes they'll ask you the question, could you walk me through what it was, your day-to-day for that role? Got to keep it concise. Don't ramble into when you went and got coffee, how you were able to structure your meetings to get a 45-minute lunch. Don't do that. They want to hear that concisely.
That's good. The next question I want to ask you, and this is this was really interesting. This is the first time in my life, my years in corporate America, I've had roles where I've been part of the hiring decision by virtue of like knowing the role and being able to give my input to the leader who was going to make the decision. But I'd never been in a position to be the person hiring until now. In my business, I just hired a VA and went through this process with an HR company who, you know, they were the recruiters essentially providing me with the candidates to look over. And so for the first time, I'm in the opposite side of the conversation, which was really interesting. And some of the things that really helped me decide between who I hired and who I didn't hire, because the candidate that I chose, the other ladies, they looked better on paper. And I was very candid with her once I hired her. I told her the other candidates, they technically they were more qualified for you. There's two reasons why I chose you. There was something about how she delivered in the interview process, right? That told me that she was a self-starter. That what she didn't know, she would figure it out. She was a go-getter. I wasn't going to have to do a whole lot of hand-holding with her, and that she was willing to learn. And she reminded me a lot of myself at her age, where I was getting into, like, I got into the government. I worked in finance really early in my life. I was 19 when I first got my first government job. And I was self-starter. I remember saying, like, listen, I don't know it, but I'll be the best decision you ever made, right? And so in interviewing her, her interview was one of the things. The other thing that really made me choose her was personality assessment. So the company who did the vetting, who did the recruiting for me, they provided personality assessments for each of the candidates. And so I really, really didn't see how meaningful this was for me as a boss until I looked at these assessments, and I could easily see a candidate who would not be a good fit for me just from their personality. And it wasn't that the personality was bad. It just, I don't need two of me. So looking at the candidate, I could see that our strengths are each other's strengths and our weaknesses are each other's weaknesses. And I'm not looking for a second me. I'm looking for someone who complements me, someone where even in their weaknesses, I'm not worried about those because those are my strengths. And so those personality assessments really helped make, you know, the role for her. From the other side of it, how can candidates prep for these interviews? Like, what assessments would you suggest somebody to take, and how should they use that information to position themselves in the job interview proactively?
I love that question because there are some free ones and then there are some not so free ones. The ones that I walk my clients through, and I even did this when I was in corporate America, when I had the younger or newer individuals enter to our organization that came and wanted career advancement advice and coaching. The VIA character assessment is the best one for those individuals who, one, want something free, two, can find a plethora of information to help you, you know, do it on your own if you wanted to. You don't have to be debriefed. You don't have to hire a professional to do it. There's a plethora of videos on YouTube. But then it also, what it does is it shows you your strengths and your character and how those align to not only the work that you're probably doing, but also to your purpose. And that's something I like to do with my clients firsthand, is helping them align their purpose with their career strategy. That's how you don't get those.
I think she froze up on us.
Oh no, am I back?
You're back.
Okay.
You said you're helping them align your purpose with something.
Yeah. So for me, the VIA character assessment helps you really align your purpose with your career strategy. It's how you don't end up with golden handcuffs, essentially. Okay. So that's one. You have a lot of people who have, you know, the Strengths Finder. You have some people that do DISC. You have some people that do, I think there's the 16 personalities, right? And there's a way that you can weave those in without saying like, I'm an ENTJ, right? Like you don't want to come out and say that, but there is a way to lean into some of those strengths. Like for me, for example, with the 16 candidates and then also, 16 personalities, and then also the VIA character assessment, it says I'm really good at judgment and balance. And for me working in HR, specifically project and program management, right, that's essential. So me actually talking to that and speaking to that in an interview would make sense. So
okay, I like that. I got a question in the comments. I'm gonna pause my questions just to answer the question here. It goes back to negotiation. It comes from Lakeisha, and she said, if she has to give her current job 30-day notice, how can she negotiate for the position if the hiring company is looking to hire sooner?
That's a good question. I want to know where it's written in your organization paperwork where you have to give them 30 days notice. Now, keep in mind, some companies will say it's nice if you give us a 30-day notice, but you don't have to, because they don't give you a 30-day notice typically when they're laying you off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think gone are the days where we are thinking that we have to give people a 2 weeks notice, because we technically don't. And when you think of security issues, depending on your role, right? If you were upper leadership, then yes, you want to do that. But if you were individual contributor, security purposes, they're going to disable your systems very quickly, because they don't want you to say anything or do anything
download files
that could jeopardize the company. So even if you put those 2 weeks in, they're probably going to start eliminating some of your powers anyway. So you're not going to be doing anything but just sitting there taking up space. I would love to see where that's written, where 30 days notice is required, because it may be strongly implied, but it's not technically required.
And I'm really curious for Virginia, because I thought Virginia was like a right to work state.
Yep, I think it's fire at will. Yeah, like they could let you go at any point. So I think they're just telling you that. It's basically what I'm trying to say. But that's not something that is mandatory. But then also, what do they say? You don't let your boyfriend keep you from your husband. That's a joke. But
going back to relationships, I love the way we.
Why am if I've already found the role and that company needs me to get in, and this is my next level up, this is the company that I feel like is going to value and invest in me, then hey, I need to start at XYZ. You go to your leader, hey, they need me to start on XYZ. Won't be able to give you that 30 days and give you 15.
Y'all, somebody put in the comments, don't let your boyfriend keep you from your husband, ... professionally. Somebody put it in the comments.
I'm just saying. And then if that company your current company starts to put you through the ringer to leave and all those things, then you're just validating that you're making the right decision.
Right. You would keep me from growth? You don't really care about me.
Right.
You don't care about me. I love that. Thank you for breaking that down for her, because that was a really good question. I really wasn't sure how to, if they excited, do you lead with that? Do you don't tell them that you have to give this other job 30 days notice? I'm assuming.
No, you would just tell. Sometimes the recruiter will ask you, like, or do you have any obligations, like, or any outstanding projects or anything like that we need to know about that will hinder your start date time? Because sometimes you do want to be respectful. If you're in the middle of a project and you're the project manager, that would also be awful. Like, that would be awful to leave that company and you're the project manager. Of course, there's going to be some transition time, but you could let the recruiter know, like, hey, I'm the lead on this particular project. I have provided them with the outline and the milestones, so everybody's on the same page. When I reach out and let my leader know tomorrow or on Monday, I'll let them know and see if there's anybody that I can debrief within a week, so that way they're prepared. Because the recruiter is also going to want to hear, are you going to be like, no, F them, girl, I don't care.
Yeah.
When you going to start?
They want to know how you treated your last, and that's back to relationships, how you ended things. Right. Are you messy at the end of your things, or do you try to be respectful and not sabotage the company that you're leaving? And I think if you position it like, I always try to make sure that this company is in a good place. I think they'll respect how you're choosing to leave this company and that you're not abandoning them. And it could give you the opportunity to look better. So
yes.
Yeah,
and I see the follow-up question for that person. It's nonprofit, not my current position. They have had some positions sign and receive bonus. So there are some companies that, depending on where you rank in that company, you had to give them a certain amount of years because of the bonus that they just gave you, right? Great. You can negotiate that into your new salary. So if that company, if you have to give them 30 days and you don't, and they're going to be like, well, we expect that percentage of the bonus back, which is $6,000, negotiate that into your new salary so that you could just give that back. Have the new company inadvertently pay for the old company.
Come on. Listen, I can't wait for y'all to come back for salary negotiation day.
Yeah.
Shoulder shimmy, because this is the information we needed coming out of high school, coming out of college, that we had to find the hard way and may have never even found. Okay, I'm gonna get on my soapbox about why we are giving education, but then no guidance about how to manage money and how to navigate our careers. That's a conversation for another day.
Todd, a scheme by Todd from the very beginning.
That's an unfuckwittable Friday conversation.
A scheme by Todd.
We bring all the conversation that we pissed about on Fridays. Okay.
We're never supposed to know, apparently.
They tried to keep it a secret, but we out here, okay? We out here spilling tea for y'all. Removing all the glass ceilings. Okay, so recent conversation, you were talking about a company bringing up culture fit versus culture fit. Can you explain the difference and why it matters?
Culture fit.
One word that's different there.
I'm already itching. Culture fit gives me nightmares when I hear companies or leaders or anyone use, I'm looking for that culture fit. That is cringy, because culture fit means that you're just looking for a candidate that aligns with what culture is already existing, people that are already existing. That's how you end up getting copy and paste versions. The leader is looking for that. What's that music video with Eminem? Hi, my name is, or whatever. They're literally for copy paste of them. Everyone they look up, they look the same. That's how you get into some of those orgs. You're like, that whole department acts the same, looks the same, behaves the same, went to the same school. Like,
they wonder why they can't solve none of their departmental problems.
Right. That's a culture fit. A culture add is someone who's bringing new perspectives, fresh ideas. They want to enrich the workplace. And that's the type of leader that you're dealing with. Those type of leaders that are hiring for a culture fit want a Slim Shady.
Sounds like, and this is just petty me, intrusive thoughts cutting through here. Sounds exactly like what DEI would bring to a workplace.
Yes.
Little diversity, little diversity of thought, perspective. I'm just carry on.
Everything they didn't want, because everybody assumed that diversity is limited to gender and race. It could be experiences, right? So it could also be ages, right? You have a team, you look across your team, you're like, everybody's a Gen Xer. That's not good. We need a Gen A, Gen Z, and a millennial here as soon as we can, just to bring balance.
Maybe even a baby boomer.
Right. Just to bring balance. So yes, there's that. And I feel like companies that seek culture add choose to want to foster that very thing, diversity, equity, inclusion. And companies that specifically use the term, I'm looking for a culture fit, are not. And those individuals that are looking for culture fit, they're the ones that's trying to find out if you have kids. They're the ones that's trying to find out what your social life looks like. Well, what do you do for fun outside of this? They're asking you like unnecessary questions in the interview where you're like, that has nothing to do. They're just trying to see if you are part of the frat.
Yeah. If you on ruin their little.
Yeah. Because every Friday after work, we go to Jim Bob's for drinks. You going with us? That's all they're concerned about. And that's something I talk to my clients about. What are the type of questions they asked you? Because those are also very revealing.
I love this. Y'all, if y'all are enjoying this conversation, give Tam some love in the comments and let her know. Let her know, because she's been spending all hour with us. We got one more question before we wrap it up. But if y'all have questions, you better drop them in the comments right now, because in a few minutes, she's going to be gone. She'll be back tomorrow, but we're going to be talking about a different topic. So you're going to have to bring today's questions to today's conversations. Tomorrow's questions, we're going to be talking about something totally different. So if you got some questions, I might even pay y'all some mine over here at TikTok land. I told y'all to come on over here to YouTube, because this is where it's at. But you over here looking over here, I may get your question answered. I don't know. Let's see if we got any questions in the comments here. We got some hearts. So they are grateful for you. I'm gonna go ahead with my question. If y'all don't come up with one before I'm done, I don't know what to tell y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow when we talk about something different.
Right.
Y'all got job interviews coming up. I'm just saying. You want a job interview coming up. I'm just saying. Drop your question here.
You want one. Right.
How can someone figure out their unique value in a work environment so they can position that during a job interview process?
This comes with a lot of reflection. And this is part of, because when we talk about my company, right, Tam Career Coaching, it's transformation, alignment, and mindfulness. This aligns with the alignment, the A, right? Because with this, you want to find out what problems do you consistently solve? What feedback have you heard from other leaders? And part of that is I talk about you need to be asking your teammates as well as your leader on a consistent basis. What are some of my strengths? What are some of my areas of opportunity? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you also want to identify like what your past successes have looked like. I didn't know I was good at project management and program management until I was thrown into, hey, you now design these programs, manage them. And I was like, oh, isn't there somebody else that could do that for me? And then I realized how organized I am, how type A I am, because I don't like to be caught slipping if someone asks a question. That is how you really find out how you bring unique value add. I know personally with the company that I just left, they lost a project manager and program manager on that team. That's a gap. They need it. And I know whatever organization I go to, not only am I the person that can design, develop, write the curriculum, and activate on what I design and develop, but then also I can turn around and measure for success for you too. I can turn around and manage and project management, and I can program manage that and give other people an opportunity in the organization to step up and assist me with that in some sort of stretch role capacity. So you really want to find out what problems you're consistently solving.
I love this. So it sounds to me like the main thing, and for those of y'all who are in Love Yourself Back to Wealth group, y'all know how I feel about this one particular word. Self-awareness is the key. In the root work process of self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-advocacy, self-awareness is an area where it's like, it really unlocks your ability to solve any problem that you're having. Is like being clear about self, and not in a judgmental way, but just being willing to hear and see yourself fully, being able to hear feedback from others about yourself, being able to look at yourself fully in the mirror. I developed an assessment for my one-on-one coaches to be able to send to their former colleagues or their former bosses that asked some questions and gave feedback. And so I recently, like, I would say like maybe 6 or so months ago, had sent it out to some of my old coworkers and my old bosses and asked them to fill it out. Mind you, I haven't worked in corporate America in 5 years, so I didn't think that they were humoring me whatsoever, but they did. And I was so, I almost come to tears to hear the feedback about what they had to say about me. First of all, it was a huge confidence booster to hear it, especially when you're hearing it from different people who work with you at different jobs, because when you start hearing a consistent message about what your superpower is, you start to really see that that's what it is. A lot of times I feel like we overlook our superpowers because they come so naturally to us, and we don't think that it's that meaningful to other people, and that we think that our superpower has to be something tangible, like I'm good at Excel. But your superpower could be, I come in and I change the temperature of the environment. I come in and people are excited to work because I come in and I'm just, I make people want to be here. And that's such an powerful thing to articulate. How does somebody articulate the qualitative, not so much the quantitative assets that they're bringing to the conversation once they see it, that's their unique value?
What I just heard is fantastic, and I'm going to touch on that a lot when we talk about networking, because what you did is also a way to temperature check and ensure that your network is still there. So that's a whole nother
okay, we're gonna put a pin in that.
Yeah, that's a good pin. But I feel like one thing, I know you have ADHD, I have ADHD, and one thing I find that people like think of ADHD people is like, when you can't give us something too complex because it's going to stress us out and make us pull our hair out. But sometimes that is genuinely our superpower. We will take something that you give us that is chaotic and complex, and we will simplify that thing down in a step-by-step guide with a facilitation guide.
Come on. We'll turn it into a binder.
Right. We will provide it back to you in better shape 10 times over than you gave it to us. And that is how you qualitatively say the complex issue that you plan on throwing at me, I'm going to simplify that in a way and put it into action that you've never seen before.
That's good, y'all. That's good. I got one more question in the audience, and then we're going to let these people know where to find you in case they want to connect with you. Alicia she said, hold on, let me put her question on the screen so y'all can see it.
How looks.
So I try to share how looks can be deceiving, and I'm aggressive and assertive when needed. And I'm not, I think I'm understanding. I'm not sure if what she's saying is sometimes people can look at you and they assume that you're aggressive, or they assume that you're docile and you're really not. They're afraid that you're too timid for this role because just knowing this person, she has a very sweet, demure. Yeah, she is the definition of demure voice. And I could see someone might assume that she is timid. And you let me know, Alicia, in the comments if I'm misunderstanding this question, but perhaps she's afraid that somebody might view her as not confident enough to take on this task because it's a leadership role and you've got to be able to assert yourself and have tough conversations. But also, I'm curious, just saying this about the reverse, when people look at you and they assume that you are mean and you're actually really nice, but you got RBF.
So that is something that I know comes up, especially for us as Black women or women in general in the workplace. So I can empathize with that. One thing I want us to get out of the habit of doing in interviews, using any of those, I call them stereotypical negative words at all. Aggressive, don't even use that in an interview at all, because some people, remember, this is their first impression of you. So if you use a word or if you use a term and you're trying to portray something different, that's going to stick with them. And I know sometimes on the rubric, recruiters and hiring managers have like buzzword sections, and aggressive would land there. It would land there. But I understand what you're trying to say. You want people to understand that don't judge the fact that I'm quiet, timid, and reserved as if I can't be assertive and engaged, right? So you see how we use those different words opposed to aggressive and things like that. What we want to say and what you can say is, I'm the type of person that doesn't speak too often, but when I do, I shake the room.
Oh,
when I do,
write that down, y'all.
Right. And when I do, it's going to be for a purpose. I'm never going to be the one in a meeting that just wants to give filler conversation. I'm never the one that's going to come off mute and be like, I agree with Dan. You don't have to worry about that with me. When you see me come off mute or raise my hand, know that this very reserved, quiet person that's always thinking and assessing and reading the room and really trying to immerse themselves in the project and what's being asked is about to bring something to the table that's going to make sense. We didn't use aggressive. We didn't use assertive. We didn't use any of those words that people can misconstrue as being negative. But instead, we showed them, don't be fooled by my quietness. That doesn't mean I'm disengaged. I'm fully here. And when I speak, you will hear me.
It sounds to me, clocked it. That's right, clocked it. It sounds to me like really just practicing the areas that you're not confident in your ability to communicate would make a world of difference. And running them by somebody else, a second set of ears, ideally somebody who is skilled in this area, but a second set of ears nonetheless, who can help you flush through those kinks in your communication style and hear them differently. Because I know that sometimes when we say things, we know what we mean by them, but that may not be what the other person is receiving. And so it's helpful to have someone who has a different perspective. Alicia said I almost been passed up on promotion because my manager thought I wouldn't be taken seriously by third-party vendors. So yeah, I could totally see how that is a real fear when you've already experienced an employer communicate to you that they hesitated on hiring you because of how you came across, and you have that self-consciousness about yourself. I could see where that comes from, but stand in your power, like Tam said.
There's a strategy there though too. And this is something that I've coached some clients on as well, especially in my last organization, because there was a lot of people that had that type of reputation, or they felt like they had developed that reputation that they didn't want stuck to them. In those meetings or in those spaces, it's a couple things that need to happen. Assess your team. If you know, based off of where your team and how your team works, at the end, someone always forgets, oh yeah, did we ever do that survey? Oh yeah, how are we measuring for success? Oh yeah, like there's always an oh yeah with that group. You need to work from the oh yeah. Be the oh yeah. Bring the oh yeah sooner in the conversation. So for example, if your leader is thinking, I just wouldn't be taken seriously, and you already know that they have an area of opportunity where they always forget this one thing, be that person. Hey, remember in our last meeting or the last project we worked on, we forgot this. Is there a way that we can bring this to the forefront in the beginning opposed to waiting to the end? You've already added some value because they were probably getting ready to make the same problem again, mistakenly. And you've pushed now yourself up to making actual or providing some sort of value. Then you also want to maybe ask more questions in those meetings. So it's not necessarily you don't want to ask a silly question, because in my opinion, there are some such things as silly questions in some cases, but you want to ask more inquisitive questions. So keep that in mind too. But that's a coaching thing. Like you said, that's something that you work on. That's a skill set, because it's like, I need to understand what the dynamic of the team is, how long people have been there, how long you have been there. It's layered, basically. It's layered.
I love that you shared that piece, because it really points out the fact that career coaching is not just for getting a job. Career coaching is also for navigating the job you're in as well. And so just because you are at a company, you enjoy the company, you enjoy the position, doesn't mean that career coaching won't serve you if you're trying to figure out how to navigate that workspace in a way that serves you better. Whether it is from the mental, emotional side, because you are tolerating things in the workplace and you don't understand your rights and your responsibilities. So I love the question when she asked you, I'd love to see on paper where it says that 30-day thing, because she's already saying, I need you to challenge, you know, your rights and your responsibilities, because it sounds to me like someone's trying to pull the wool over you, and where career coaching can help you fill those gaps of knowledge, but also just how to navigate moving up inside of the company, that it's not just about landing a job in someplace different, but also positioning yourself the entire time so that you're the obvious next choice, and that they're creating positions for you maybe that don't even exist, which is something that I know has happened for you multiple times.
4 times.
4 times. 4 times the job didn't exist.
Write my own job description. Right.
Baby, if it ain't there.
I did. I have all of the job descriptions that I had to help write, because that role that I possessed never existed. But I filled the need. Yeah. And
this is why you want to connect with Tamra. Listen, Tamra, the way you just pulled the curtain back on interviews today, y'all watch the magic. First of all, if y'all been selfish and sitting in this live this whole time and didn't hear the share button to somebody y'all love and y'all care, y'all not real friends. Y'all don't love your cousins, your aunties, your best friends, your brother, your cousin who been borrowing money from you. You don't love them because you ain't hit the share button. Okay, some of y'all do love your family members, and I appreciate y'all taking time to share it. I thank y'all so much. Before we wrap up though, I got at least one gem to share. Here's what I want you guys to remember as far as like interviews. They aren't about answering questions. It's not just about answering questions. They're about positioning yourself as the solution. That's what I took away from this conversation. When you know your value and you learn how to communicate it with confidence, you don't just hope for an offer. You attract one. You attract one.
When you know your worth, you won't settle for less.
Come on. In any relationship. Professionally. Of course, professionally. Okay, Tamra, thank you again for pouring into us tonight. Before we close, though, I want to remind folks where they can find you. And all of those who are in the Love Yourself Back to Wealth cohort, I want to remind you that tonight is a bonus live. Okay, so the link that you use to join our class Monday and Wednesday night at 7 p.m., Tam is doing a private Q&A with you guys. So if you want her to look at your LinkedIn, we got 30 minutes of her time tonight. Hop in, you guys are going to get a couple minutes, and then she's giving you another bonus that we already talked about, and that is the value of membership. Mm-hmm. Friends, if you are not in the Love Yourself Back to Work cohort 1, it is not too late to become part of cohort 2. It starts October 20th, but enrollment is open right now. If you are interested in joining the Love Yourself Back to Wealth cohort, drop me in the comments. Matter of fact, put LYSB2W in the comments. I know that's a lot. Love Yourself Back to Wealth in the comments. Love Yourself Back to Wealth in the comments right here, and I will make sure that you get the link so that you can enroll in cohort 2, because you never know what extra gems that we are going to drop. This is a bonus that we are offering right now for cohort 1. Cohort 2, you never know. Tam is also our resident career coach inside of our community, and so you are able to book her, and she offers a discounted rate to our cohort. So again, membership has its benefits. So if you are interested in joining cohort 2, it's not too late. But Tam, can you tell them where they can find you directly now if they're like, I don't want to wait, I want to talk to you today?
Yes, if you go to my website, IGotTheJobTam.com, you'll also find my socials, my LinkedIn. You can find me there, Tamara Griffin. You can search for me in that space. You'll also see the button to the Instagram page. There's nothing on it yet because I'm still getting accustomed to content, as B will tell me. New to the content world.
Every day, this is an insider between the two of us, because every day I'll be like, did you record it? Content.
Like,
You nailed that interview. They need to hear behind the scenes.
Right. So content coming soon to Instagram. But you can definitely find me at IGotTheJobTam. It has my bio there. It also has my links to my social. It has my email, as well as my text number as well. So.
Yes. And guys, if you're not following her on LinkedIn, that's where she shows up the most. I'm telling you right now, stop playing with yourself. Go over to her LinkedIn page and follow her right now. If you don't do anything else, like, you're just paying attention to the things that she does on LinkedIn, and you can see why people are searching for her for jobs. She ain't job hunting, they hunting her. So it is because of how she has
in the time that we've talked, someone has messaged me on LinkedIn. That's why I just messaged.
Come on. You know what I'm saying?
I was like, oh.
Another job opportunity. And it's because I've watched her do this, and we'll talk about this more when we get into LinkedIn. I've watched her position herself the entire time she had a job when she had no intention of leading. Like, I care about this subject matter. You know what I mean? Like, I watched her be really strategic about how she positioned herself as a thought leader. And so it was super easy. Like, it's like, you know, like back to relationship, you know how like the homies can see it. They can see she's special. They waiting for old boy to fumble you. They are waiting for old boy to fumble you so they can slide in your DMs and finally shoot their shot, right? Tam, I'm telling you, the jobs have been waiting for her employer to fumble the bag so they can shoot their shot. And as soon as Tam posted, well, they was like,
it happened. It's been a whirlwind. I mean, a message daily. It's been interesting, but also fun, and also very humbling to see how much you've been able to impact other people. These are people I used to work with, and they have since moved on well before me. And that's where we talk about networking. That night I got some gems for networking, y'all. And I think this is important. I don't understand how you can call yourself a professional, whether you're self-employed or working in an organization, and not have a LinkedIn.
Come on.
Your LinkedIn is the story behind your resume.
Y'all go ahead. Don't take that shade, that shame. I want y'all to just turn around right now and go sign. We are diving into the earn pillar and the love yourself back up the wealth cohort so aggressively, because in order for you to get your financial life together, you have got to make more money. You can only cut out but so much stuff in your budget. At some point, ain't nothing left to cut out. So you have got to earn more money. Now, once you've earned more money, you better learn how to manage it, because you'll end up feeling broke all over again if you get a bigger paycheck and you're still the same person, if you still have the same spending habits. So making more money is only part of the process. You're going to hate your job all over again when you're feeling broke again if we do not master the budgeting skill. When you are mastering the budgeting skill, the next thing to master is that saving skill, because that saving skill allows you to create space for peace. It allows you to set up systems that protect your nervous system so that when things pop up, you are not derailed and blindsided and feel like all the progress you're making was for naught. Okay. And then if you are saving properly, that means that you are setting money aside to multiply, to invest, to make your money make you money, so that eventually clocking in is optional anyway. Okay. So until you get to a point where clocking in is optional, you need to make sure you clocking in for the most money that you can make. So I will see y'all tomorrow at 5 p.m. we are talking about the LinkedIn and networking like a pro. We're going to talk about how to make your LinkedIn work for you, how to build relationships that create opportunities, and position yourself so that jobs come looking for you instead of the other way around. Set your alarm, tap the bell, bring a friend. I will see y'all tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.